For any diver who can stomach the risks, Bushman's Hole is a world-class diving spot. It's located on a privately owned game farm in South Africa. In the middle of the farm's 11,000 acres sits this massive crater in the ground. If you hike down the crater to the middle, there's this little tiny basin of water. This is the entrance to Bushman's Hole. Once you step into this little puddle and push your way through the very claustrophobia-inducing entrance, you open up into the biggest freshwater cave in the world that goes down to nearly 900 feet. Dion had logged about 200 dives before he was invited by a diving group to go to Bushman's Hole and explore it on Christmas break 1994. The dive was going great, but on the way up, the diver ahead of Dion looked back at him and Dion wasn't there anymore. And he turns around and starts swimming as fast as he can down, but Dion was sinking so quickly that this diver realized that it's a mission if I try to go down there. And so deeply saddened, this group of divers had to turn around and leave Dion. They told Dion's parents that most likely he had suffered from a deep water blackout and then had drowned. 10 years later, Dave Shaw, who was a 50-year-old extremely audacious cave diver, was passing the 800-foot mark inside of Bushman's Hole, and he saw something he immediately recognized, that this is Dion Dreyer. But as soon as Shaw tried to move him, he couldn't get him to budge because his tanks were caught on something. So he ended up tying a line to Dion's body so he could be located again. And so when he got on the surface, he immediately contacted authorities and said, I'm going to go back down and I'm going to get him. And Shaw also called Dion's parents and told them, I am going to retrieve your son. Shaw's recovery of Dion was scheduled for January 8th, 2005. The dive was going to take 12 hours. It was going to be like a relay race. Dave would be the first one down, and a couple minutes after, another diver would go in who would stop about 100 feet above Dave, and then a third diver would go in, and so on and so forth. Dave would put the body bag over Dion and then carry his body up to the first guy, to the next guy, and the next guy. At 6:13 in the morning, Shaw entered the water. As soon as he got down, he found Dion's body, and he got the body bag out, and he got to work. 13 minutes after Shaw had submerged, the diver who was slotted above him began looking for signs that Shaw was done, and when he got a little bit closer, it became very clear that Shaw was not moving. This diver immediately goes into rescue mode, and as he's moving down, he hears this fizzling sound, and he looks at his wrist, and he can tell that one of his gauges has broken, and so with a heavy heart, he had to turn around and go back up. But he had a slate, and on it he wrote in his grease pen, Dave's not coming back. Eventually, by the end of the night, all of the other divers that were in the water that day successfully exited the cave. Afterwards, they started pulling up the lines, and as they're doing that, they noticed all these bubbles coming up from the bottom of the cave. And they looked a little bit closer, and it was Shaw's body and Dion's body. Basically, Shaw had been attached to this line, and he had managed to free Dion before he had passed. And so when they pulled the line, both of them were freed, and they floated to the surface. And so even though Shaw would die doing it, he was able to get Dion out of Bushman's Cave for his family.